Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Putale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dhrati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shra Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamstra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Varshabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha Kripasinubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashati Desha Tarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Good morning, everyone. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 8. So for this class, we have the title, Caring Among the Careless. I'll read the Sanskrit here first. Kimnu baleshu surena kalina dhira biruna apramata pramateshu yovirko nirshu vartate. So the word for word translation is Kim, what? Nu, maybe, baleshu, among the less intelligent persons, surena, by the powerful, Kalina, by the personality of Kali, Dhira, self-controlled, Viruna, by one who is afraid of, Apramata, one who is careful, Pramateshu, among the careless, Ya, one who, Virka, tiger, Nirshu, among men, Vartate, exists. The full translation, Maharaj Parikshit considered that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless persons. Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit. That being, or i.e., propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter unto his lotus feet? I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thank you, everyone, for joining this morning and allowing me to speak on this topic here once again. I'll turn off the screen share here. So in this report here, we're given two types of individuals. On the one hand, we have those who are self-controlled. Those are the Dita individuals, and then those who are described as less intelligent or the foolish. And those are the Baleshu. And the individuals described as Baleshu are those who find Kali to be very powerful, and they're also described as Pramateshu among the careless. And this category of the Baleshu or Pramateshu, they find they're very easily influenced by the energy of Kali. And then those who, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada states that those who are not in the Dita category, those are people fall prey to the actions of Kali. And so essentially in this case here, Srila Prabhupada is dividing society between devotees and non-devotees. So just simply two categories, the Dita and the Baleshu, devotees, non-devotees. And there are many different words that Srila Prabhupada uses or has used to describe these two divisions of society as it is. Now, Dita are also, that word is also translated as self-controlled. And then I was looking up in the Bhagavatam in other cantos, and there's several other ways that it was translated. And some of those examples are undisturbed, pacified, intelligent, patient, and sober-minded. And a lot of those should sound somewhat familiar. These are all qualities that are favorable for the process of bhakti. And what we've all probably heard sometime before is that the devotee ought to be as tolerant as a tree. And to propagate this process, then the first step is to control the 6 urges, the so-called Vegas that we have. And Srila Prabhupada often emphasizes that the first one is controlling the tongue through eating prasadam, avoiding food that is not offered. And then the other 2 to 6 Vegas are the control of speech, control of mind, controlling of anger, the belly, and the genitals. And so here in our current society, with so many careless individuals being part of it, for the Dita or the devotees, it is stated here, to quote word by word, is to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit, i.e. propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. So in other words here, it's also saying that the intelligent should take care of the less intelligent people. And I would like to also otherwise word that certainly for the sake of preaching, might be better for some of us to rather say to take care among the careless, whereas it's one thing for Srila Prabhupada to use some of these words, and then certainly for us in our preaching mission, it's less favorable to use the same words, because Srila Prabhupada had a special position, and he was an elderly sannyasi, and garnered a lot of respect from individuals and those that he met. So it's different for him to use these words in such a way. So this process of caring, this can become troublesome when we take that in contrast to from today to back then during the time of Maharaj Parikshit, because nowadays those that care they don't have the same amount of influence over those who are careless. And for Maharaj Parikshit, it was fairly simple that he was the king, and so he garnered this position over the people. And then without having someone in this position, then it becomes increasingly difficult for those that care to have any type of influence over the rest of society if they're, as it is now, outnumbered, and those who are careless. And then to reinforce this difficulty, not only are we without that leader or a king today, but one could argue that even in any capitalistic society, that the leaders actually reinforce the influences of Kali rather than counteract them or try to stop them. So they're just accelerating this whole process into the Kali Yuga that creates more entanglement into the material matters and sense gratification. So the optimal solution for all of this would to reinstate the Varnashrama Dharma as a whole, and then establish a devotee once again as a king, and then provide a kingdom. But since that is, long past those times, it's less feasible. And then so here in the Kali Yuga, we're given the Nama Sankirtan as the Yuga Dharma. And then that is the easiest way to influence individuals today. And then that's also the great thing about this Kali Yuga, where from a societal perspective, devotees, they don't have that much influence over the society as a whole, yet there's the Nama Sankirtan, which is a very simple and easy process, which also easily influences individuals. We're given many examples of that, just hearing alone can have a vast influence upon people. And then alongside this Nama Sankirtan, of course, we also have the process of bhakti. And the good thing about bhakti is that it can act independently from the Varnashrama Dharma. And to kind of explain that, acting independently from Varnashrama, is that bhakti can be present, but the Varnashrama system need not necessarily be present. So that without bhakti, the Varnashrama system would be incomplete. The process wouldn't be fully there, such as for the sannyasa, the elderly step process, that final 2 stages of life, for example, wouldn't be there in a proper manner. And then also, unlike with the Varnashrama system in bhakti, it is not entirely reliant on one's birth, what position one takes up within that system. In bhakti, everyone is eligible. And so in the Varnashrama system, there were still some individuals who acted outside of the system. So even though in Maharaj Parikshit's time, it was present and fully formed, there were still individuals who didn't fit in those 4 categories. The so-called the Mlekas or the Yavanas, the Chandalas, are sometimes called dog eaters, individuals that are even, I guess, worse than or I shouldn't say worse, but outside of even the Shudra class. And then in bhakti, everyone again is eligible regardless of their history, and that is very necessary during this age of Kali, because there's many individuals who are outside of even the so-called lowest classes, as criminals and things like that. So to summarize a few points that I gained out of this. I was listening to a couple lectures of Banu Swami once again. My last class, I found a lecture from him as well on the topic. He was stating that Srila Prabhupada had a goal to once again establish the Varnashrama system in society, and mentioned that that had been has been an ongoing topic that has been coming up with the GVC, and also mentioned that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had emphasized the perfection of the system in his writings, emphasizing that the grihastas of the Gaudiya Vaishnava system, they have to abide by the system. And certainly from the time of Lord Chaitanya or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the society has changed so much, or so much further in the Kali Yuga, that there's outside of India, I would think that this sense of a Varnashrama system isn't really present anymore. Maybe just to some degree in the minds of devotees, it's there, that some devotees still have some kind of sense of it, thinking where individuals would fit into the system. And so if this were to occur, to implement this Varnashrama system, or how we ought to strive for doing it, there's going to be these rules present, which are the 9 rules of bhakti, the Mukhya Vidhi. This will be the main Vidhi, or the main rules. And then there's the secondary, the Varnashrama Vidhis. And those would be these secondary rules. And after I was hearing on all of these things, I was kind of curious, because I hadn't, I don't recall hearing the emphasis on reinstating the Varnashrama system before. And so I was getting curious what the purpose of having, or what the importance of it is, why Bhaktivinoda Thakur emphasized it so much. And the importance of it is to have the secondary vidhis for the grihastas of the Varnashrama system, whereas the grihastas are able to support their bodies and support their families in a way that isn't contradictory to the process of bhakti. So we have our initial rules and foundations of bhakti, but then since now 99% of devotees, they don't live in an ashram or at the temples, and they engage in regular jobs just like the rest of society. We're very intermixed. The society isn't separated as much from devotee, non-devotee. Devotees are incorporated in all aspects of society. And so it's important for the grihastas to have this secondary, such as like a societal guidelines for the process of bhakti as well, so that we have some kind of protections working within society to still advance in our bhakti process. And some of these guidelines will be how to socialize and establish family relations, and then also how to relate with the elders, with the kids and the elders, and how to raise children. And outside of the emphasis on the Varnashrama system, ultimately the conclusion that I had been hearing in the few lectures that I found is that the Nama Sankirtan is our saving grace. That's the Yuga Dharma. That's where our focus ought to be, to propagate and care for here the so-called Baleshu, or translated as less intelligent persons. And we can find some time now. It was a pretty short report with not too many topics included on there. And what I would have an interest in doing is possibly for preaching purposes, if we can help each other, or if you can help me with this, is that this topic came up in one of our newcomer preaching classes recently, that Srila Prabhupada often will use words such as ignorant or less intelligent in his purports. It's in, I think we're on the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where individuals are described as ignorant. And one of the individuals who's taking the introduction course with us was, I suppose I could sense a little bit of being upset, saying, well, he's calling us or these people ignorant, and there's no two ways about that it's insulting. And so we kind of had to slow down, because of course we could sense that there's a little agitation there, understandably. And how I thought to handle this one is to first explain that ignorant ought not be an insult, that unfortunately in today's society, it is used, or perceived anyways, as an insult. And when thinking of that, really the definition of ignorance, I can look it up word for word, but I think it is just without knowledge. Lacking education or knowledge. That's the simple definition for ignorance. So with that definition, it's really quite arrogant even to take that as an insult, that one should think, well, I am supposed to know everything. If you tell me that I don't know something, I'm insulted by that. Yeah. So to somehow lightly convey these things was my approach. Some others took the approach of Srila Prabhupada's stance of how caring and kind and loving he is to all individuals. And if anyone has anything that they might be interested in sharing, or how they maybe encountered a situation like that, or how they handle these situations, what they tell newer individuals, I'd be interested to hear. We have a little, about 5 minutes or so. If anyone would like to share, that would be appreciated.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much. Yeah, I mean, I understand, Prabhu, some of the statements, if somebody is hearing for the first time, they might take it the wrong way, right? I mean, like women are less intelligent, or the scientists are like, what do you call, rascals. And Prabhupada uses
Right.
those words in front of them, in front of the scientists. I mean, when we watch those videos and all, they also agree, right? They nod their head, yes, yeah, we are like that. But when we say, I mean, of course, we are going to get beaten up, right? Because of his purity, he was able to do that, and he knows what he was talking, right? So, I mean, of course,
Right.
I mean, at my stage, I don't know. I mean, I will not be able to use those, as you mentioned, right? But when these things comes, I mean, I counted few times, especially, I think with the new people when we were reading, I think in the Bhagavad Gita introduction, I guess, or some book, I don't remember. I think, yeah, one is that woman thing comes. That is one little challenging thing, less intelligent.
Yes.
And then the other one, I think it talks about something about, I don't know, Americans. I think, yeah, I think he was praising beautiful girls and boys, something like that he says, and people were not ready to take that up, right? Some of the Indian body people. I mean, why Prabhupada has to say he's a sannyasi? He doesn't need to say like this. I mean, people are, different things, right? So it is very difficult to convince. But I mean, when people, of course, one need to understand the context. Prabhupada is saying those things, right? He's encouraging devotees as well, right? He right doesn't care for the bodily thing or whatever it is. He is encouraging the devotees to take up the process, intelligence and all, right? So when Prabhupada can say those things, Prabhupada, I think when people are understanding the context, if they're matured enough, they will be able to get it. But of course, we will not be able to use those words as is outside the context, right? We cannot say, yeah, you are fool or whatever it is, even if somebody is,
Right.
that's what Bhagavad Gita says, right? Grossly foolish and all, but we will not be able to use it, those things as is. Of course, we have to be careful. Because the way Prabhupada used to care and also you can use those, right? Because he's doing those things with care, right? He's very, very caring for those people. That's why he's using those things, right? So then the people will be able to take it. But yeah, we don't have that much care within our hearts. So I don't have it, so I cannot use those. But yeah, at the same time, the scriptures are saying that, and we don't want to say that it's not true. But yeah, we need to be little more, bring them to the next stage of understanding what it is. And then, of course, the person who is coming to the Krishna is not, right? So that's what Krishna says. They are like very, very big hearted, right? But yeah, but yeah, still people may not be able to take in the beginning stages, right? So,
Yes, that's been, thank you, Nangaraja Prabhu. That's been my experience as well, that I've seen it's very important to bring this knowledge in a systematic manner, where sometimes, we've restarted just in the past year or year and a half since I've been listening, we've restarted the introduction, I don't know, maybe 5-6 times probably. And then having someone join midway through the introduction or in the second or third chapter, it's a completely different process, and it can be a lot more difficult to get through these things if one hasn't approached some of these topics step by step, and kind of, if one builds up to them, then it all falls together and makes sense. But yeah, coming for someone new, maybe as we had in the second chapter, and then there's some topics that take a little time to educate individuals on, it can be very difficult when some of these words are used. And so from what I've seen, it's definitely, if we have someone, to take the time and talk to them as an individual, on an individual basis, to clarify some of these things, maybe look up what are the purports that are going to be in the upcoming class, make sure that some of these things are explained so it doesn't have to come up during the group, because sometimes there's only one opportunity to preach to someone. And if such a thing comes up in that class, that can be lost then, just because we hadn't prepared properly or hadn't prepared them properly with some previous knowledge, so that there's a better understanding of what's going to be said.
yes,
Thank you again.
thank you.
There's nothing else. I think that is all I have. Can I end here?
Sure, Prabhu, I think
Okay.
other discussion.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa-sindubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Krishna consciousness.